All of us understand that with no government at all, the strong prey on the weak with impunity. Laws exist to protect the weak, and that ultimately is why we pay taxes, to allow the government to protect the weak from those who might harm them. So what happens when government decides to stop protecting its citizens? In the past month, many have had to confront that question. On May 30th, riots ripped through downtown Charleston, South Carolina, and to their horror, many citizens there discovered no one came to help.
I just called earlier, but it's gotten worse. The riots, they broke into the restaurant and they're stealing all the money, the alcohol, ripping up the seat, and 30 employees are stuck in the courtyard and they're barricading the doors and they're trying to break in. I've called 15 minutes ago and there's still no cops, and there's 30 people that are in danger.
Okay, and you said there's people throwing
stuff
into the windows?
Screaming. They're throwing things through windows. They're assaulting people. Like, where are the freaking police? What? Why are they not stopping this? It's so freaky.
Where are the freaking police? Yeah, imagine if you had to ask that question to a 911 dispatcher. Ken Schneider owns a wine bar in Charleston. It was attacked. He called police repeatedly and received no assistance. Meanwhile, his business was destroyed.
What's the name of the business?
Uncorked Charleston. My staff and guests were running for their lives while the police cowered at King and Calhoun and still haven't moved, and left the entire city unattended, people in harm's way, businesses destroyed. Are you guys ever going to show up tonight?
Okay, sir, we do have calls in for this. The Charleston Police Department has officers that are responding, okay?
Ken Schneider joins us now. Ken, thanks so much for coming on. There was something about your call that made me emotional as I listened to it. It was primal. I think every person who heard it could picture themselves in your position. What was it like?
Well, thanks for having me. I will also say that the first caller from, I believe she was from the Macintosh, was that first 911 call.
Yes.
And, kind of get a little emotional and teary-eyed because I lived it. Not only did I live it, my son was literally the last line of defense. He had just dragged 2 customers off the street to protect them, and the first brick came through the window and shattered shards of glass on him. I had left about an hour before it started because the street, King Street, was reasonably quiet because a lot of people stayed away because they knew there was protests going on in Marion Square, which is our center park. And I got home and my staff started calling. It first started with the doorman who said, Ken, I heard from on the street that there might be an 11 o'clock curfew. So I called the non-emergency line first, to which they said, yes, there is. And I said, well, what does that mean? Do I have to have my guests leave? Do I have to have my staff leave? Does it mean at 11 o'clock they have to leave? And their quote was, we don't know. So I thanked them and I hung up, and I go up to my office and I start watching the cameras and I start watching the scene unfold. And it's hard to think about now because, again, my son was there, my staff was there, the guests were there. And, I'm getting staff members calling me, telling me they call 911, nothing. Then there's gunshots out on the street. And this is Charleston. This is not a town where this stuff ever happens. I mean, we made it through the Scott murder. We made it through Mother Emanuel, which yesterday was the 5th anniversary. And the people of Charleston have always come together. And when this happened, it was frightening. It was devastating. My business is being rebuilt, but the bottom line was, we had guests, employees, basically scared for their lives, and they should have been because what was going on, and nobody came. I'm 55 years old. In my life, I never would have thought no one came. And I'm going to say, Carlson, that I don't hold anything against the police because they were following orders. I hold it against the leadership of this city, against Mayor Tecklenburg. Total lack of leadership, lack of planning, lack of communication. No one had any warning. No one said no one's not going to come. It was almost as if when you call 911 the final time, I felt like I was calling a restaurant for a reservation. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Would you like a window seat? It was so nonchalant. And it's just a terrible feeling to know that, you live in a place where when what hits the fan, if no one's going to show up to help you. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm listening mesmerized. It's just Charleston is such a wonderful place. It's just hard to believe that your city would allow this, that your mayor would be this negligent, would care so little that the city would allow this.
Yeah, I mean, the lack of leadership, creativity, planning, all of it, it just goes into it. I started sending him emails, and I have his email address that I know he responds to because he has in the past. Emails to him on Saturday night, the 30th of May, when this happened, saying, how can you let this go on? Your lack of leadership is appalling. And, you know, nothing. Even to this day, the outreach to the community hasn't been there. We've been boarded up. We're getting close to opening. I begged and borrowed and really pulled a lot of cards to have people help rebuild my place because, you know, we survived COVID. I'm not going to let this take us down.
And you didn't even do anything wrong. It's not like you assaulted anyone. You're a completely innocent bunch.
No.
Ken Schneider, I really am rooting for you. I know our viewers are too. I'm sorry about that, and I hope you get new leadership soon. Great to see you tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.